Hey guys, welcome to Tuesdays Live, my favorite day of the week. Please like and subscribe and make sure you leave a comment because we've got to get this community talking about this extremely important topic. So please make sure that you share. Because, we've all been taught that the Federal Reserve is supposed to be an independent, and they are certainly a private corporation. But that independence has been called into question a number of times. And right now, it is absolutely 100% in jeopardy. Do you think that the collapse of a long-standing system would be easy? Do you think we're just going to slide it? Oh, no big deal. I'm telling you, it never, ever is. That's why it's so important to get into the safety of sound money. And sound money is above all governments, it's above all central banks, it's universal money. But you also need security in food, water, energy, security itself, barterability, wealth preservation. Community has arguably become the most important piece, and shelter. So I'm going to show you right now what's happening at the Federal Reserve. Maybe you've heard a little bit about it, but here is President Trump yesterday saying there can be a slowing of the economy unless Mr. Too Late, referring to Fed Chair Powell, a major loser, lowers interest rates now. And so what he's really saying is he wants inflation. So if the Fed lowers interest rates, right, more money, free money will be printed and we will get higher inflation, but that he thinks that will offset the inflation impact, or no, not the inflation impact, the economic impact of his tariff plans. Not so sure, but this whole bottom line is it is about the rhetoric that indicates that the President Trump does not trust Powell's decisions and would like more control over monetary policy. Thus, the Fed's independence is absolutely in jeopardy. And he's saying, honestly, that Powell does not understand what he is doing. We could probably question everybody on that because there are always unintended consequences that we don't know about. And unfortunately, Fed Chair Powell is talking, he's between a rock and a hard place because he called that this inflation would be transitory, but it's not. It's proven to be a lot stickier, meaning that they really haven't been able to pull back inflation or noticeable inflation as much as they'd like. And as he had hoped, so it's technically appropriate to keep those interest rates elevated to subdue that borrowing and spending, which is exactly the opposite of what President Trump wants. So remember, the only way to fight inflation is with deflation and thus higher interest rates. And here we are. The Fed and the president are on a collision course and between a rock and a hard place because remember, it doesn't really matter. If he keeps interest rates here, you've got a whole bunch of corporate defaults that are in the offering. But lowering the interest rates inspires higher inflation, which makes it more noticeable because it impacts the consumers and the consumer sentiment and the confidence. And, oh, by the way, the all-important inflation expectations. This is a huge problem because, if we were playing chess, I'd say we are frankly at checkmate, since any move is more than likely to end very badly. And so Fed Chair Powell has said that firing him is not an option, but that is being called into question. And as confusing as it is these days, some things are crystal clear. And this administration wants to be surrounded and supported by those who support the agenda. Could this end the days of an independent Fed? I mean, could that be over? And if it is, what does that really mean? Because the administration is questioning and looking for ways that President Trump can actually fire the Fed chair, install their person, and there you go. So why do you care about the Fed? I mean, you certainly know that I do not believe we need a central bank to control the rate and speed of inflation. And if we were on a redeemable gold money, we didn't need them. But before there would be calm, there would be chaos. So really, what is gold and silver? Gold and silver is your bridge to get from one currency system into the next currency system. The chaos would come from money creation, frankly, the likes of which we have never, ever seen before. And this will openly be the expression of modern money theory, which, we've been exhibiting for, since 2008, but now no semblance of anything else. It's all going to be over. And it's just to print or create whatever funding is needed for whatever project is desired. Right now, Jay Powell is saying no to the president's wishes. Could there be a way to put an ally as the head of the Fed or take it over as a government agency? Because what that really is called is fiscal dominance. And that means that the government is dictating all of the policy. And that means hyperinflation. So the time to get prepared is while we still have choices. I cannot tell you exactly when the hyperinflation will become apparent to the public, but there are too many things that are pointing in the same direction. And if you don't have a solid strategy, well, let us help. That's what we're here to do. We are all here to be of service. So what should you look for? Well, let me show you. Now, fiscal dominance, again, is when the government takes over dictating all of the policy. So they want to print some money, they want to do something. Okay, this is what they do. There's your hyperinflation if the Fed isn't an independent agency. Because I want you to think about this for a minute, all right? Because it's something that I thought deeply about. What did gold do in our monetary system? Redeemable gold actually held the government accountable. When they installed the Federal Reserve was supposed to take the role of gold and create that fiscal responsibility. It should be pretty clear that that really didn't happen, and now we are at the end of this system. So if the Fed didn't do it, an independent agency, what do you think the direct control of the government and their spending would do? That is full control of the printing presses, goes directly to the government, which would enable the government to print funding for projects at will. And the most likely outcome is an inflationary, not bump, but a bump up and then continuing from wherever the inflation level was when it started. This could well be the final push into a full-blown hyperinflationary depression. It's coming, and you need to be ready. And so while this is not a done deal yet, I mean, they're going back and forth. Even the thought of this as a possibility should inspire you to get prepared while you can and sound money, gold, and silver. That's it. Sorry, I wish there was something else, but it's not. It is the safest and soundest foundation. It's why the global central banks are buying as much gold. But that's not only my opinion. It's the opinion of the Bank for International Settlements, which is the central banker's central bank. And people that have watched me for a while, this is not going to be new to them. But what they showed was what role of gold inside of foreign exchange reserves, right? So we're talking about fiat money? And what role should gold play in there? Well, first of all, gold is an asset free of default risk. It is the only financial asset that runs no counterparty risk, right? Number two, gold kept at home is not subject to political manipulation, which is completely applicable to the threat of the Fed losing its independence. Number three, gold is a proven inflation hedge, something that I show you all the time. But number four, gold's value in highly adverse scenarios, which is why global central banks have been accumulating gold at the highest level in history. This is more obvious and more evident than it has ever been. Governments' takeover of independent central banks are always, this is what third world countries do. What does the U.S. become? It is always a setup for unbridled money printing. Here, two fists. Unbridled money printing and hyperinflation. And everybody knows it. And maybe that's why you see how much gold central banks are buying. Because who knows more about what they're doing to the money supply than central bankers? And they are buying gold. But you also need security in the entire mantra. The time to prepare is now. And because we don't have that luxury of time like we once did, that's why community has risen to the very top. So I showed you how the Fed's independence is now in question. And I showed you that who knows more about money than the central bankers do. You've got to take heed because they're buying gold, but you also need security in the entire mantra. And please make sure that you like and subscribe. And I hope that you can see how important this topic is, because I really want any and all questions, even if you don't understand it, kind of give me a little bit and we'll go from there, because this is kind of like the last straw. If you see the Fed lose independence, I mean, I'm not sure how independent they were before, but at least there was some kind of sugarcoating over it. There ain't no sugarcoating about to be over it. This is bad. And now I will take some questions. So David asks, I understand that in some cases, like short-term capital gains on stocks, a tax can be collected on a windfall profit basis. But in the case of real estate or gold and silver, the increase in price of those items is due to the government's devaluing the currency 100%, David. The only reason my precious metals have increased in price is because of the devaluation of the dollar. Same with my house. Yep, my house did not appreciate in value. The currency was inflated by government money printing and causing my house to require more currency units to buy. And it's a brilliant strategy. I'm going to read the follow-up, and then I'm going to go back and make a comment on this, because, you know, you'll have to give credit to where credit is due, even if it's evil genius. Why should I have to pay? Oh, this is a great question. Why should I have to pay a capital gains tax on an increased price when they caused the currency inflation which drove the prices up? Because they are evil genius, and this is about a wealth transfer mechanism. And when they drive the prices up because they drive the currency down, right, it makes you feel richer, even though you're really not. And actually you're worse off, because even though you don't realize it, you're working for less and less money. And then they create the inflation, and then they tax that inflation. So, you know, really, what does that mean? It's evil genius. Why should you have to? Well, would you like a different choice? Because we can make that different choice. If we can get 3% of the global population to just convert into sound money, then we can have a seat at the table, and we're not going to have that choice anymore. We can say, nope, take our power back and have a say in the laws. Because with a gold redeemable money, they do that. You don't like it? Enough people walk into the bank and pull this out. Guess what? They make different choices. So gold creates that fiscal responsibility. It's not all gold, because if it's not redeemable, it doesn't mean anything. We need redeemable gold back in our monetary system again, because I agree. You should not have to pay those capital gains taxes on real money and on real estate and on all of those inflated assets, because Wall Street, short-term capital gains because it's become a big trade. But it's tax and spend, and if they can get you to just comply by nominal confusion, things go up and you go, oh, look at, isn't that great? But the underlying value is down. Great question. Thank you, David. Great question. And as it relates to the mantra, I have everything covered except for the community. I'm torn about the idea of letting other people know that I prep. I've always been told not to tell people that. David, I'm right with you, because I get that too. We'll finish this. We'll talk about that. The only community I have right now is immediate family. I'm also trying to make friends with the local butcher and farm markets. Any other ideas in this area would be appreciated. And can I even begin to tell you how many people have told me, well, you planted all that food out front and people are just going to come and take it away from you? Maybe, but that goes into why security is that important, because they can come in and they can demolish all the gardens I have in the front of the house. They're not getting, hopefully they're not getting in this house because I've done well with security, but you're asking about how to build community. By being here and asking these questions, that's one way for you to build that community. And just because you're letting people know that you prep doesn't mean that you have to tell them everything, right? What you're really looking for are like-minded people, and I'll bet you there's some community gardens near you that you can start to just create those relationships without disclosing more than you feel like you really need to disclose until you find, your community. That's really the best way that I can say, all of my neighbors know that they are very welcome to come and pick a pomegranate or pick a zucchini or pick herbs and things like that. And they do that on a very regular basis, which is absolutely fine with me. But do they know? Do they actually know what I do? Probably not. Probably not. Most of them. Some of them might. It's a tough one, other than you have to reveal enough to become part of the community, but you don't have to reveal everything that you're doing until you are ready to do that. Right now, it's about that relationship building so that when the time comes, you've got those relationships in place. And I think you've got a great start. And I'm really glad. I think you're doing great, David. And Robert Dick asks, with the price of gold going up, a great question. Why is silver being left in the dust? The ratio is getting larger. I thought silver followed gold, but there does not seem to be a movement with silver. Well, silver is a different bird, right? Gold is the primary currency metal. Silver is the secondary currency metal, but silver straddles more of the global economy. Even though they're both used in manufacturing, this gets used up, this does not. So silver is also going to react and respond. The price of silver is going to react and respond to what's happening in the economy. And the IMF came out, and where last year, or the last report they did, there was a 27% chance of a recession in 2025. They just ratcheted that up to 40%. So gold is the universal primary currency metal. And so as confidence in the US dollar and the Treasury bonds are declining, you're also seeing a bigger rush to gold, with obviously those global central bankers really doing a huge push, because who knows more about what's happening in the currencies. But global central bankers don't really accumulate silver. So there's been a lot more buying of gold than silver. Having said that, silver will have its day and it has a function. And that's why when people talk to me about the ratios and ask me about ratio trading, because silver is oh so cheap, for me, it's always been about function. What am I trying to accomplish? Then view that at some point in the reasonably near future, you will see silver break out. But let's say silver goes to its fundamental value, an ounce of silver somewhere around $2,000, which I get how outrageous that sounds, considering that it's at what, 32, 33 bucks on the spot market right now. But that will not last. You're just battling between the monetary side of it, which is more gold, and the manufacturing side of it, which is looking at a global slowdown. Does that make sense? But at the same time, remember, it's still forming that cup, right? So that trend is clearly in place, but you don't buy it because it is a trade. You buy it because it will support your ability to go into the grocery store and buy a pint of strawberries, right? Or go to your local farmer's market and buy a loaf of bread, right? It is for functionality before trading. I don't even care about trading, right? It doesn't matter. When gold and silver go to their fundamental value, do you really think you're going to want to trade it? No, you're not going to, because by that point, you're going to understand that this current system is deader than a doornail. Means nothing. And again, I'm just going to remind everybody, if you need to talk about any of this more closely, our strategy specialists are trained. They know all about this. They can help you dig in. But if I say something you don't understand, let me know. Give me an opportunity to explain it a little differently. And Mark Scarupa, if I butcher your name, please forgive me. How relevant is the gold to silver ratio considering its industrial use? I don't really care about that, to be honest with you. And do I think that it's going to grow more narrow? Yeah, I think we could see. There'll be different times when silver starts to run and gold isn't moving as quickly on the spot market that we could see that ratio change. But again, are you going to convert it? So for me, it is not relevant, right? It is about functionality. It is not about that gold-silver ratio. And Paula Thompson asks, when is a better time to purchase residential real estate? I'm still waiting to buy with gold, but home prices still soaring in Sydney, Australia. They are soaring in Sydney, Australia, but there are also a lot of cracks that are forming in there. So there's a couple different ways that you can look at this, and you're the only one that can decide what feels the most right for you, because we need to have a place to create our last stand. So here, I'm in a big city, just like Sydney's a big city. And, you know, I'm in a neighborhood in here. This lot, I know I'm going to be talking in terms of acres. I don't know how to talk in terms of hectares and what that means. But I'm only on a half an acre, right? And there's a house on there. There's a pool on there. There's other things on there. So I can only plant out what I can plant out. But the mantra, food, water, security, barterability, wealth preservation, community and shelter, and energy. I left energy out. You need a place to create that as much as you possibly can. So I know that there are neighborhoods in Sydney. Now, because gold is so severely undervalued, right? If you needed a place to live and create that last stand and create that security, what you want to do, because in Australia, they redo the interest rates, and that's the problem. right? They redo the interest rates every couple, 3, maybe 5 years. And so you can't really lock in a 30-year note like you can here, or bond like a mortgage like you can here. However, you got to have a place to make your last stand. So if you can offset your mortgage with the amount of gold that you need to pay that off in a heartbeat, right? Then it could make some sense, because you'll be repaying that debt with Australian dollars that have zero value. But you're going to have to be able and be prepared to accommodate any of those interest rate bump ups, because debt is going to get a whole lot more expensive. So that would be the only reason to buy a property right now anywhere in the world, and especially in Sydney, because I know that prices are going up. But there is a strategy around that. We're entering it, because think about this. The Treasury, the 10-year Treasury underlines the whole global financial system. And with the move now losing confidence, and I think it's already lost, I don't think there's really anything that we can do at this point to regain that. That's huge, because it's the U.S. Treasury that underpins the entire global financial system. So we need to have governments buying our debt. And they are moving away from buying our debt because they don't trust us anymore. So if they do that, then that weakens the treasuries that underline the global financial system. And then that makes them trust us that much less, which means they're buying fewer treasuries, which means that the ones that are out there are weaker. Can you see that doom loop? Can you see where we are in that cycle? And if indeed the Federal Reserve the money printing is now controlled by the government, oh, we're only going to do this, but that's going to make it better for everybody down the road. And all right, you're going to feel a teeny weeny bit of pain. I'm not going to feel any pain. You're going to feel a lot of pain, but don't worry about it. It's going to be better off down the road. In some ways, I actually agree with that, because the system is so corrupt that we need an entire system reset. What I'm proposing to you, no matter where you are in the world, is be as independent and self-sufficient as possible. Have a foundation of sound money that's above governments and central bankers, but have the rest of that mantra: food, water, energy, security, barterability, wealth preservation, community, and shelter. Have that in place so that whatever happens, you and your family are okay. And Paula Thompson asks, she already asked that. Awake Now asks, should I only buy a certain grade of pre-33s like 64 and up? No, it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. Like this is a 1903 and it's just a raw coin, but this is my emergency gold. So if I need to come up with cash like that, this is what goes first. The 64s, which I love, 64, 65 libs, I love them. For me, depending upon what the coin is, it's either about converting into income producing assets or about leaving a legacy. But I still need to pay off my mortgage. I need to make sure that I can pay my property taxes. If I don't. But if someone out there has a chronic ongoing illness, you're going to need to be able to get the medical care that you need. You'll need to go to the grocery store, put gas in your tank. So all of these things that you need to do require different kinds of gold and different kinds of silver. And if you talk to us, we can help you determine what you need so that even inside of your gold and silver portfolio, you are appropriately diversified, supporting all of your goals. That's what we start with your goals first, because it's not the tail wagging the dog. Okay, I'm going to buy all these 64s. I mean, that's great, but is that really what you want to take to the grocery store? No, it's not what you want to take to the grocery store. So get your strategy in place. We'll help you with that. We're here to be of service, and we're happy to be of service. So, yeah. And Eva Sintra asks, I have a question. With what funds has the Fed been, that's a great question. Thank you for asking it. Has the Fed been buying gold in large quantities we've seen since December of 2024? Are they issuing new debt to buy that gold, or did it already belong to the U.S.? I'm not sure that I'm going to have to look in this, because I'm not actually sure that the U.S. has been buying a whole bunch of gold. But if they were, and the other global central banks are, what they're doing is they're printing money in order to buy that gold. So they're printing this garbage that literally has zero intrinsic value and converting it into sound money that's all intrinsic value. What's the difference? Intrinsic value means that this crap is used in one place. So if the demand for that goes away, like we are seeing on a global basis, it goes away, it goes to zero. Whereas this is universal money, and it's used in every single sector of the global economy. That's why it has intrinsic value, because it has the broadest base of use of any asset, not just financial assets, but any asset. So, yeah, let's see. So that's how they do it. They print money. They print their fiat money to buy sound money. Well, I'm suggesting that you convert your fiat money into sound money too. And Wolf asks, I keep hearing that silver will soon be in short supply. What's your opinion, Lynette? It already is in short supply. So yes, it is. And that's why, but it's still straddling both of those. And remember, when you look at the spot market, that does not show you the true value of gold or silver or stocks or bonds or anything else. All you're seeing is a trading market. And in those contracts, it's easy. It's so easy to create a whole bunch of silver and gold that does not exist. Remember what happened with silver and to SLV, which is the silver ETF? They had to change their prospectus to read that it merely reflects the spot price, because they can already back in 2020 could not buy enough silver out of the marketplace to complete their baskets. So, soon in short supply, it's already in short supply, and it gets used up in industry. So, it's a huge bargain, but it's not a trade. It's not a trade. It is, for me, it's about barterability, and it will go to fundamental value. It can't give you a lot of guarantees, but this one I can give you because it's been true for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. At some point, all assets, all instruments go to their fundamental value. We haven't seen it yet in the spot market. At this point, is not going to show us. I never expect Wall Street to show us that. Who'll show us that are when the governments are trying to regain the public confidence. We hold a lot more power than we realize, and it's all in inflation expectation and confidence and sentiment. That's why they track them, because they lose us, and that's what's happening. You got a double whammy of confidence that's going away. I've never seen anything like this in all the years that I've been doing this, other than currencies that do not exist anymore. And and Low Blood Pressure asks, Lynette, can you shoot gold backs out of the money gun? Well, I only have one here, and I'll bet you it would work. Where is it? I bet it would work. I don't see why it wouldn't. The size might be, yeah, it's kind of little. But let's see. This is an empty money gun. I will put my gold back in there. The answer is yes, I can shoot it out of my money gun. There you go. And D Princess asks, suppose Jerome Powell steps down and is replaced by a figurehead who decides to lower interest rates. Would that be enough to prevent the looming financial crisis, or is it already too late? Actually, what that would do is usher it in more quickly, because it doesn't matter what happens. I'm sorry, guys. There is nothing that can be done at this point to stop this, because there is virtually no purchasing power left in any of the currencies. I don't care where you go in the world. This is fiat money. It's intrinsic. Its true value is a big fat goose egg. It's zero. So I do think that that's what's going to happen, rather than making it super obvious that the government has taken over the central bank's printing presses, that a figurehead would go in there and do that bidding. So let's think about this for a minute. So they're going to go in and they're going to lower rates. Now, understand that interest rates are the tool that central bankers have to regulate the rate and speed of inflation. So if inflation is running too hot, meaning people are noticing, they raise interest rates to slow down that borrowing and spending, right? Only one way to fight inflation, and that is with deflation. And that is what raising interest rates are about, is creating that deflation. On the flip side, lowering interest rates inspires borrowing and spending, and thus a lot more money printing, right? So I'm sorry, it doesn't matter. Even if Jerome Powell does not step down, or he's not fired and he's in there, the interest rate's up at this level. I showed you a while ago, when they started raising rates, they broke a 40-year trend. That may not be obvious right away if you don't know what you're looking for, but I'm going to tell you, that trend has not been reversed. That's why I always show these patterns, and when there is a key pattern shift. It's all in knowing where we are in the trend cycle, so that you can get into position to actually benefit. What a concept, because most people won't be they won't be in position. And when the hyperinflation hits and they're dependent upon this stuff to get them through it, it won't get them through it. And that's why globally, on average, 80% of the population ends up in abject poverty. But then I look at what we're doing and what you guys, and when I say we, I really am including you in it. We are preparing. And if we are prepared, those that have not prepared, that we know and love and care about, well, maybe we now have the ability to help them not end up in abject poverty. Because if you are completely dependent on the government and the government says jump, you have to say how high. That's why it's so critically important to have your sound money, but have all those other parts of the mantra. So they can say jump and you can go nope. And enough of us have to be able to do that. Then we can take our power back for everybody. Even those that go, la, 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 I don't want to hear it. That can't ever happen. No, 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 no. It doesn't matter whether you want it or not, or whether you think you do or not, or however you feel about it. This is just a repetition of history. Let's see. Oh, Akash Yadnik. Oh, I haven't seen you in a while. Hi. It's been a while, but it's been wonderful working with you and your organization. Oh, yay. Thank you so much. Do you know why gold has pullbacks if we are going into hyperinflation? Is retail being priced out? No, retail is not being priced out, but you're going to have pullbacks because, again, this is a trading market. I talked to a lot of extraordinarily brilliant people that I personally have a tremendous amount of respect for. But when I go to a currency life cycle, a lot of them are pretty clueless. Right? And they can kind of think around the edges of hyperinflation and kind of think around the edges of loss of confidence and all of that. But they really don't understand what that means to the normal person. And what that means is that you end up in abject poverty if you are not prepared. But if you are prepared, if you have just what you need to lead an independent life, plus you have those 64 libs or whatever they're going to be, and you have that sound money foundation, guess what? Now you're in the driver's seat because you're holding your purchasing power. And you're in a position to take advantage of the opportunities that come during crisis. Because what do they say? Never let a good crisis go to waste. But usually it's the upper echelon that gets to take advantage of it. Well, we can do it too. We can do it. So, yeah, the pullbacks are just a function of trading because they don't really understand what's happening with the currency system and that this is a currency life cycle. That's a huge advantage for you. Huge, huge. And D Princess asks, the coins I've collected aren't pre-33. You previously mentioned pre-33 gold coins are less likely to be confiscated. Does that mean modern gold coins could be? 100%. You know, and it's so funny because people will go, oh, no, that can't happen. Well, what is that? That's a function of hopium, not history. Because in this country, gold has indeed been confiscated, not just in 33, but in the War of 1812, as well as the Civil War. I've got a Confederate note in here. Can't buy a darn thing. Oh, this is a state note. Can't buy anything with that either, right? So the pre-33, if you can, the way that I determine what I'm going to hold is if I can hold it inside of an IRA, I am not interested in it because most people that own gold in the U.S. hold it inside of that retirement plan, meaning it's pretty easy to do a huge sweep and leave lots of this cash. So when I'm, you know, this is the only, and I'm wearing my travel bracelet today, so those are new, but they're in bezels, so that's kind of a collectible. But this is really the only piece of bullion that I personally own because if you don't think inflation is a form of confiscation, I want you to rethink that. If you don't think that taxation is a form of confiscation, you know, think again. And tell me why these have the same exact gold content weight, and yet this one I can hold in the IRA and this one I cannot. There's a reason. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm going to tell you, I am very clear on what the true value of an ounce of gold is and the fact that, yeah, we are going into a hyperinflationary depression. I've studied it since 1987. Do you know anybody else that's done that? You know, I want to sit on this because my personal goal is to build and leave a legacy for my children. So yeah, I want to survive this, and I've made sure that I have enough barterable silver and barterable gold for myself and my daughters and their families. But beyond that, I'm in some level of this, depending upon whether I need to pay off a mortgage, whether or not I need to protect the assets that I don't own any stocks or bonds, but for those that have them, you want to make sure you're properly diversified so that if the dollar goes to zero, that's all you can convert them into anyway. You have recouped that, and then you want to be in a position to convert your purchasing power into income-producing assets. When we see those patterns, when we see those accumulation patterns, and you're going to buy it somewhere at the bottom, right? I'm never, if you ever get in at the bottom or out at the top, that piece is luck. I don't even really care about that, honestly. I'm just trying to get you in somewhere near a bottom and out somewhere near a top. And even that, you're not going to get completely out of it because 100% of the time, you should always have a foundation of sound money in your portfolio. What will vary will depend on where we are in the trend cycle. And so that would be the quantity and the kind that you're holding. But right now, we're at the end of this life cycle. I want the most private form of gold that I can have and that I can use in the normal marketplace. And D Princess asks, in a crisis situation, would I actually be able to use gold to pay for my rent or theirs? Could it be used to pay off student loans or credit card debt? Yes. Now, there's a couple different ways, and I want to make sure that we're on the same page, right? It is possible that if the central bank and the government were to do an overt gold confiscation, that the banks would be tasked with gathering as much gold as possible. And therefore, yes, if you owed the bank on student loans or mortgages or any of that, that you could indeed go in and directly use gold. Additionally, if you are, when it's time to convert into an income producing piece of property, if you are working with an individual, at that point, everybody knows what's happening with the currency, and their preference would be, okay, to take payment in form of gold. However, more than likely what you're going to do, and this is all part of the strategy, if you're working with us, we're going to help you on this, right? You would be liquidating enough gold, maybe on a monthly basis or something like that, kind of depends on your needs, to meet. You're going to liquidate and pay that off. Bam. Just like that. Liquidate and use it. Liquidate and use it. You're not going to want to hold it. So we're going to do that on like a shorter time horizon. That's all part of the strategy that we put together for you. But the answer is yes, it could be used. Maybe not directly, but you convert it and use it. You convert it and pay those student loans off. You convert it and you do that. So there's a possibility of both using the physical metal as well as I think we're definitely going to be using the fractional silver directly. That's what history tells us. So, oops, did I get the one above? In a crisis.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. In a crisis situation, do you think it would be safe for us to let people know we have gold and silver? I'm 25, by the way. Well, thank you for being here because it's so important that you understand this. And no, I don't think it would be really wise to let a lot of people know that you have gold and silver, right? That's why I don't like the bars. I know people that are accumulating, 10 ounce, 100 ounce bars of silver. Oh my God, can you put that in your pocket secretly? No, but I can stick a dime in my pocket and go wherever I want, right? I can stick an ounce of gold in my pocket, even this, and keep it invisible. So, I would not be announcing to the world that I have gold and silver. Of course, that's what I do because it's my job to talk to you. But I don't hold very much of it at my house, obviously, because I'm too visible. No. And good job. And if I don't know your name, can you scroll down a little bit more? D Princess. Awesome. D, you keep coming. You keep asking those questions. Give us a call because we are super duper happy to educate you in any way and help support your efforts in any way that you can. Anyway. And Jeannie Young asks, hi, Lynette. Thank you for answering my question about goldbacks. If we get rid of the dollar, will Trump put us into crypto or something else? Look, if we stay separate, then they can do any darn thing they want. He's really, really pushing the stable coins that are issued by corporations. So he's vowed that we would not have CBDCs here, central bank digital currencies, but central bank digital currencies in many places, they just don't work because the public doesn't trust them. They don't trust their central banks anymore. So they're either way, those are Trojan horses to get us into the surveillance economy. Physical gold and silver in your possession does just the opposite. But why would we allow them to have that power, right? We gave it up in 33. And how well has that worked for most? Not very well. I say it's time to take our power back and not let them do whatever the hell they want. Oops, sorry about that. You're going to have to beep that. Sorry about that. Sometimes I get a little carried away because it just ticks me off so much. But why let them do whatever they want? And I don't care who it is. whether it's President Trump or even with Biden and whoever is going to come afterwards, or maybe no one will come afterwards. You better become your own central bank and keep your choices, because I don't think you should allow any more of your wealth to transfer their way. And Pandemonium asks, hi, Lynette, any thoughts on Basel III NSFR rules coming into effect this July? I'm pretty sure they won't, actually. By classifying paper gold as risky product for the bank, is it the announced death of the price suppression? Well, one could only hope, but I don't think we've even modestly seen the deregulation. I don't think that President Trump is a big fan of Basel III endgame. But physical gold is a tier 1, meaning the absolute safest asset, and central banks have been piling in. We'll have to see what happens, but I'm pretty sure it probably is not going to happen. And it should announce the death of price suppression, but I don't think it will do that because it's too dangerous, unless, of course, by July, they're ready for an absolute and utter and total collapse. Because a lot of what we're seeing in the price moves in gold right now is the remonetization of it. It's always been money. It's that acknowledgement on a global scale. So Chantel Van Leeuwen, sorry about that, Chantel. Which coins to buy in Europe, as sovereign and Napoleons are also seen as investor coins? We don't have as many slabs as the U.S. And actually, this is a gold rooster. And I have a lot of the Swiss francs. I will say, in terms of Swiss francs, make sure the date is prior to 1948, because 1948, they did a lot of restrikes. So there are British sovereigns. This is a French rooster. There are German marks. And all of those, to your point, are considered collectibles. And I like them myself. I own a bunch of them. Not as easy to get today here as they once were, but of course. So yeah, I think that's a great way to play that. It's not, in the U.S., this turns it into an official, documented collectible, but I could easily make the argument and do that this, even though it's not slabbed, is also a collectible because it's minted prior to 33. And in our documentation, what does it say? Any coin minted prior to 1933 is classified as rare and collectible. So yes, I think the sovereigns, the roosters, the marks, all of that, I think that is a great option in Europe. Absolutely. And Deb Warner asks, what events need to set up after the revaluation of gold before the gold prices then starts to fall? Or does it always set new norms at revaluation fundamental levels after the last revaluation? Yes. Okay. So this is how that works. When they do that first overnight revaluation, it will then begin its move toward fundamental value. Now, globally on average, it usually lasts up at those levels about 9 months. But I wouldn't be counting on that because it can be just a very short-lived thing as well. So there's a lot to the strategy based upon that. But that first go-around, no. It'll be a nice big jump, maybe 3,500% or whatever, because I don't know what that overnight revaluation is going to be. But then you're going to see that it doesn't work because they don't change spending patterns. They just change how they account for it. And so gold will go down like everything else in terms of that currency, but then it will immediately start gaining in value in terms of that currency again because they don't change behavior. Globally, on average, they will do that overnight revaluation 3 times. But Venezuela's been 6, Zimbabwe's been 6. This is a global issue. It's not just a country. So that's what makes this revaluation a bit different, because it's on a global scale. But during the Depression back in the 30s, that also was on a global scale. And we were not as interconnected. And again, you're going back to President Trump's stable coins that are being purchased by the general public in third world countries because their currency is rapidly inflating. And so they perceive that those stable coins that are pegged to the dollar on a one-to-one basis are more stable. They are more stable, but they're still declining. And actually that is speeding up, especially based on the topic that we talked about today and the loss of confidence in the global central banks. This is really, really challenging. And that's why it's so critical to get as much prepping done as you possibly can in every area of the mantra, using the community to do that in. And if what you bring to the table is gold and silver, no, you don't have to tell them that that's what you're bringing to the table. But I can guarantee you that you are going to be way better off by holding your purchasing power between those overnight revaluations. And do you know how you're going to know when we're at the last one? When there's a component of convertible gold in that system. Because what's going to happen is the public, the global public, will lose confidence in dollars. See, right now you have the governments and the corporate globally and the global corporations that are losing confidence, but the public is still buying those stable coins. We're sending hyperinflation into the whole world. There is. I'm sorry. I wish I could say something different. I wish I could say, yeah, maybe they can fit. They can't. It's too far gone, and we have no purchasing power left. So it has never, ever happened where a currency has regained its purchasing power. If you want, I'll do something next week. I was planning on doing something next week on the dollar, and actually I should show you when the wars really started with China. So I'll do that for next week. So many things. I could talk every single day, and I would still not have enough time to talk. Best time to buy gold? Yesterday. Second best time to buy gold? Today. Right now. Especially with this little pullback that we've had. Just do it. Just do it and get her done. Get her done. And Jake's, did I get the one above that?
You did.
I did. Okay. And Jake's custom parts question. Lynette, can you explain the difference in stacking pre-33 gold raw coins versus graded gold rare coins? Different function, right? This is what I'm using for an emergency because I have a pretty large staff. If for whatever reason I needed to gain more of this to pay them, this is what I'm selling, right? This is what I'm going to convert into that money anywhere in the world, any currency. This is what I'm stacking to convert into income producing assets. And then at another level, much more rare level than that, that is what I am stacking to leave my family so that I'd really like to think that they can dream and make those dreams come true. I'd like to leave them enough. I don't want to leave them so much that they can choose to do nothing because I want them to bring value to the world. That's why we're all here. So that's really the difference between the two. Clearly, I own both. By a wide margin, this is what I own. By a wide margin, I own more of this than anything else. But I would say it's in that area, that kind of middle area for conversion into income-producing assets. So I have my barterable position to sustain my standard of living. I have my middle position to create income that I cannot outlive. And then I have my legacy position that I'm never intending to liquidate. It's not that I couldn't. If I needed to, I suppose I could, but that stays in the family, hopefully forever, so that no matter what happens into the future, they always have a foundation of wealth. And Miramar asks, what is my opinion after meeting with Kinesis Money? Well, I like Andrew McGuire very, very much. And I can definitely see a place in the strategy in the first part, in that part where you need that liquidity, to have convertible gold. And Kinesis Gold might be that player a little bit more. But yeah, I love Andrew McGuire. I think he's a very, 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 very smart man. Like him very much. And was thinking about gold, but crypto seems to be crushing it way more than metals. Should I still consider gold as something that may perform as well? Gold will outperform cryptos. Gold has been tested over thousands of years. Cryptos have not. Have you ever thought, and they're pushing them. Why? Because that gets you more comfortable in intangible money in the surveillance economy. And please, please, Jeff, could you tell me why when they want to show you cryptos, because cryptos are here, right? You can't see them. They're intangible. So when they want to make a picture of them or make them tangible, they're gold, silver, or platinum. Why? Because that's what gets your confidence. So I'm not going to tell you to not do cryptos, because you've got to do whatever you think. But when you say they're crushing it, it's to get eyes on it, to develop that comfort level so that when they change it, just like, I'm going to show you this again because it is really such a big deal, okay? This is how they make the transition, and that's why the crypto is crushing it. 1913 to 1933, all three of these things were operating in the economy at the same level of purchasing power. This is physical gold. This is a convertible, a redeemable gold certificate. I don't like what they're doing. I walk in with this. I walk out with this. But this Federal Reserve note was also floating around the system at the same time. So everybody was used to thinking of these as all the same. And in 33, those two things went away and this was left. Boom. Transition complete. So that's why I say that the cryptos are Trojan horse. I'm not saying that they're not here to stay, but I am saying I don't know exactly who's going to survive and exactly what that's going to look like. But what I do know, because I have so much data on it, so much history from it, right? 10 trillion times zero is still zero. Where are cryptos used? One place. They are creating demand so that they can sucker you in to the surveillance economy. And then they don't like what you think or what you do. They easy to cut you off. Boom. Harder to cut me off. I've got this hidden. Something to think about. And let's see. And if you do make that choice, just make sure that you are appropriately diversified so that it doesn't matter whether you're right or whether you're wrong. That's the key in all of this, because I can't give you those guarantees and I can't tell you what to do. But I do like to do things that it doesn't matter if I'm right or if I'm wrong. And Cryptonomics says, crypto is best for quick gains. Lynette just doesn't trade. So that's true. I don't. I'm not a trader. So she can't really speak on crypto as much, but it definitely pays. You know, you want to do quick trading, do it. I mean, I had all those licenses. I was a futures. I had my license in futures contract, and I did trade a little bit back in the day, but it takes a certain kind of mentality. By the way, I can tell you that every time that I give you a technical lesson, I'm going long out, but you can use all of that data in the short term. So you can see those accumulation patterns, you can see those breakout patterns, you can see those breakdown patterns. You just want to shorten your time frame if you want to trade. You are correct. I am not a trader. I don't have that mentality. I've done it. It makes me way too nervous. I am a long-term strategist, and I like to get in position so it doesn't matter what's happening. And Gala Key asks, in the event of an overt confiscation, how would you barter with people with no idea what I think you mean 33, you said 99, but 33, are, and any tips on how to find those who know? I'm in Europe. If by chance you have EU references, and we are working on that, Lynn. And by the way, this is what you want. You want junk. This is what you want. You want sterling silver and just fractional pieces of gold, right? That's what you're going to barter with on a day-to-day basis, depending upon what it is that you are trying to buy, right? I don't want to take this rooster, this gold rooster, to buy a pint of strawberries. I want to take this dime, right? So, and that's true wherever you are in the world. You need fractional means less than an ounce, pieces of silver and gold. Or remember, silver and gold in any form is monetary at its base. And I personally would have absolutely zero problem snipping pieces of my sterling silver to barter with, if that's what I needed to do. So keep that in mind. And we are working on having the ability to sell on a global basis. We're not there even marginally yet, but I want you to know we are working on it. And we do want to support your efforts wherever you are in the world. That's why I travel. So, and I will be in Germany at SOAR Financial, their event in, I think it's in Frankfurt, November 21st, I think, is 21st and 22nd, something like that. Stay tuned. We'll let you know. Maybe you can come. That'll be fun. And Mark Skarupa, is there a viable mechanism to tap into the value of held gold without selling it? Well, there are some mechanisms where you can indeed borrow against your gold. Some banks, and I don't know, but there was a while ago when I saw that JP Morgan Chase would actually do that as well. But yes, there are viable mechanisms where you can use that as collateral. And Gloria Curie asks, hello, Lynette. So happy to be on this live stream. And I'm very happy. I'm very happy that you're here and everybody's here because this means so much to me. I learned so much. Question, please discuss fractional gold. When I executed my strategy with ITM when you were still there, I didn't get any. So, okay. Again, fractional gold, fractional silver are less than an ounce. You see me struggle, you guys. I wish you had gotten some. I wish that whoever it was that you were working with and took the time to define your goals. If you call Zang Enterprises, we will help you figure out where you are and where your holes are. That's what I can say. Cindy Bradshaw asks, wouldn't the best situation be to get rid of the Federal Reserve? Yep. And go back to a gold and silver standard? Yep. And no borrowing by governments? Yep. Is that too idealistic? Yep. It is. But that's only for where we are. I don't know about the no borrowing. So I don't really see a time when we'll go back on a one-to-one ratio, but we could go to a 40 to 1 ratio as long as it's redeemable. Because quite honestly, I wouldn't mind walking in with this and then walking out with that, right? I would definitely make that swap because it would still create restrictions around governments, what they could do, and put power back in the public. So yeah, I'm all for getting rid of the Fed. You know, they are not my favorite at all, and also not necessary if we are on a sound money standard, a redeemable gold money standard. And Eli in the Wolverine state, any tips on buying jewelry besides watch the premiums? Well, like my Uncle Al used to tell me all the time, this is the first thing that you buy with. Understand that gold and silver are so severely undervalued. You know, it really is about the premiums, but, you know, I travel with this stuff. So it's kind of an easy way and we will be. We're not really there yet. But travel jewelry, I think, is a great idea. And any tips on buying? Buy what you love. Buy what you love. Or buy broken stuff that you're going to get somewhere near spot. But as my Uncle Al would say, buy what you love. And Pandemonium, any idea on gold coins to buy in a country in France which required at least 80% of premiums to be considered collectible? Will all collectibles reach such high premiums? And then some. And this is really such a fabulous question, because if you're looking at an 80% premium, I'm going to make life easy, okay, for me, because remember, I don't have pricing and all that stuff up there. But this is, let's say this was going for $3,000, that an ounce of gold, well, it's going for $3,500. It breached that last night, $3,500. But to buy this coin, and actually in this level, because I was there yesterday and everybody was telling me, okay, they're having trouble finding a coin below $4,000 now, right? So there's your premium, $3,500, $4,000, whatever that is. But the true value of this coin is $44,000. So even if you spent $10,000 on a coin, $20,000, $30,000, it's a bargain. This is exactly why it is so important to understand the fundamental value of any asset or instrument. You go on the Federal Reserve's website and you put in purchasing power of the consumer dollar, what do you see down on the left-hand axis but a big fat goose egg? So cryptos are going up. Okay, I have this $10 trillion Zimbabwe note. I'm a trillionaire that can't buy eggs, right? But they blind you with that. This is how they get you into the system. Now, the movement in gold is from the loss of confidence in dollars and and I can't say traditional. Gold is the traditional safe haven asset. It's been around for 6,000 years, whereas dollars have only been around since 1913, right? And Swiss francs, et cetera, et cetera. But all of those safe haven assets so deemed inside of this dysfunctional fiat money system, that's all going away. And that's why that's one of the main reasons why you're seeing gold fly, because they're not really even able to cover up the intense level of buying because of the intense level of loss of confidence. So I don't really give a crap personally, just like I don't really care about the gold-silver ratio. That's irrelevant to me because I'm about functionality. I don't really care about premiums. I care about privacy. I care about having the kind of gold that I can use in the normal marketplace no matter what. And I 100%, there isn't even an itty bitty doubt in my mind as to the true fundamental value in terms of this crap of this. So I don't mind premiums. I don't mind premiums as long as it does not go above the fundamental value. You're paying a premium for the crypto because the dollar is overvalued. And actually, that's what President Trump is saying when he wants those rates down, because he wants to create more inflation. And he's saying the dollar is overvalued. We want to take it down. That's what that means. So I don't mind premiums. And what do us poors do without gold and silver? Do we prep with a pantry of canned food? Yeah, what you do, first of all, silver is dirt cheap. And, one of the ways that you can accumulate, you know what our minimum is? This 1 ounce of silver, because we feel so strongly that everybody needs it. But there are always ways to accumulate at least silver, because you can go to an antique mall where there might be somebody that specializes in silver. I guarantee you they're going to have stuff that's bent and broken and demolished that they can't put out. If they take it to a smelter, they're going to get so much below spot. But if you were to offer them, hey, I'll buy your scrap silver, so it's scrap silver, I'll buy your scrap silver by weight at spot. Sterling silver is 92.5% pure. So if, I'm just going to make my life easy, if spot's at $1, that means you're paying 92.5 cents for that 1 ounce piece. Okay? That's another way that you can accumulate. But honestly, anything that's physical, anything at all is barterable, and any skill sets that you have is barterable. So yes, the food you definitely need to prep, no doubt about it, but learn how to lay irrigation. Learn how, can you be a plumber? Can you be a carpenter? I mean, I've actually fixed my toilet bowl before, right? That's a skill set. That's barterable. When you go to work, what are you doing? You're bartering your time, your skill sets, your work for whatever that payment is going to be. So I can tell you, for the people that I have set up for my bug out, I don't really need their gold or silver, but I do need their physical talents and their labor. That I need. So yeah, you become a member of the community. You bring what you have. I can't do everything by myself, but I'm happy to share what I have. So Lumbach, I don't know, I'm sorry if I'm butchering it. I really miss your videos. Oh, me too. I really miss your videos. You see this, right? On gardening and prepping, what does the bug out location look like this year? And Chef Jason's recipes. I don't know that we have hit a date for the rollout, but can we say within the next 2 months, do you think? I'm looking over here. You really have to have like a solid team in order to be able to do this. So what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's easily attainable. Where there's a will, there's a way, and there's a strong will. So
there's an extremely strong will, and I have great support. So now I know there is a way. So stay tuned, because it's as important to me, maybe even more important than it is to you. And this team has not been to the bug out yet. So maybe we should pick a date and make that happen, and we'll take some pictures and you can see. So, but thank you so much for bringing that up, because that is something that is super near and dear to my heart. And Julie McDonald, don't put your eggs all in one basket. Buy gold, silver, and crypto, but first make sure you have food and water and supplies for hygiene, etc. You can't eat and drink your gold and silver, so that's first. I agree, and actually the way that I rolled it out, obviously, I had my Sound Money Foundation built before 2008. And we were talking about this for the last couple of days, so we'll be getting this done probably pretty soon. And I'm going to show you how I started with my bug out, because what you want to do is you want to look at, where do I feel the most vulnerable, right? So you've got the mantra pieces, all 8 pieces. Where do I feel the most vulnerable? Then you go over and you work in that area a little bit until you don't feel as vulnerable there. And then you step back and you go, okay, where do I feel more vulnerable? And you go and work in that area. So I do agree with you, Julie. You can't eat your gold and your silver, and you don't want all your eggs in one basket. The only challenge that I personally have with this, and I'm not saying that you should, I'm just speaking for myself personally, because I've been in these markets like really my entire life on some level. So, and I've studied currency life cycles since 87. So number one, I have a highly evolved understanding of sound money and of the markets. Been a banker, been a stockbroker, studied, read constantly, making sure that I understand what they're talking about. So yeah, you got to do what you're comfortable doing. I'm pretty clear for me on where I stand on cryptos. This does not mean this will be where I always stand on them. I just want to see who's going to survive. So, and you can't eat your gold and silver. Food becomes the single biggest issue for people. So when I knew that the system died in 2008, I came in the house and I did what I needed to do just to feel comfortable with it. And then I went outside because I'm not a gardener or a farmer by nature. But food is the biggest issue. So I wanted to make sure that I could feed my family. And then it just evolved. And if I could feed the world, I would. But 100%. And this is the importance of a local community, so that wherever you have those weaknesses, you can create that diversified balance. Critically important with all the mantra pieces. Absolutely. Excuse me. Okay. Kay Lamb asks, does constitutional silver count when one is totaling up one silver 100 bazillion %? Yes, it does. I love constitutional silver. And for those that don't know what that means, that's silver that's minted prior to 1964, because it is 90% silver. And they did something kind of smart, right? A dime, it's not 1/10 of an ounce, but it's easiest just to think of it like that. So a dime is 1/10 of an ounce, a quarter is 1/4 of an ounce, a $half is 1/2 an ounce, and a silver dollar is an ounce. Now it is 90%, but for me that's a little too complicated, so just think of it like that, and then it makes sense. Yes, I love constitutional silver, pre-1964. I have rounds, I have new stuff as well, because I don't have the same issue around it. But yes, I agree with you. Love constitutional silver. And Sandy L asks, is Moffat gold good to hold? I'm not sure what that is, but I'll look at it. And then I'll tell you next week. And Miramar asks, do you go thrifting? I have found silver jewelry and cutlery, sterling 925. So 925 is Mexican silver. That too is 92.5% pure. And typically you'll find that in jewelry. Yeah, I'm not wearing that one today. Then if you want, you can exchange at a coin shop for coins. I have been skint a long time, or in it a long time. I know you can do it. I used to do it a whole lot more than I do it these days, but it's primarily for timing. But yeah, 100%. I mean, how do you think I got all of this stuff? Right? I'd go to yard sales, I'd go to thrift stores, and yeah, exactly what you're looking for is that sterling mark, because then it's 92.5% pure, or the 925 silver, 92.5% pure. Love it. I don't have as much time to do it, but back in the day, I have so much of this junk silver, because people will be like, oh, I don't want to polish it. I'll take it. And you buy it for nothing. Nothing. I actually also remember back in the early 80s, when silver went to that $50 mark, right? Going into antique shops, and they were not really paying attention. So they would have, I don't think this is true anymore so much, but you could buy like sterling silver flatware sets for essentially nothing, because they just weren't really paying attention to the markets. That was a great place to buy it when it was running. I think it's more obvious now, but yeah, that's a great place. And Cryptonomics asks, the whole Armageddon end is a Hollywood story. Things won't decline like that. It will be a slow decline, which has already begun. So I disagree with some of that because I've studied it for a really long time. And the real key in it is the confidence, right? It's a Ponzi scheme. So what happens when confidence is lost? If the whole system is dependent upon you accepting this, and all of a sudden, globally they don't accept it, and locally they don't accept it, I hope you're right. I don't think you're right. Time is going to tell. You're either going to be right or you're going to be wrong. I'm either going to be right or I'm going to be wrong. But if you are fully prepared, what difference does it make? If I never, ever, ever need to use my bug out for the 40 people that I'm prepared for, I still love going up there on the weekend and being all to myself and having all of the air that I can breathe up there. It's like so fresh. I have my gold and my silver. 85% of my diet, I'd like this to be 100%, but we're not there yet. 85% of my diet comes from my property. That means that I control the water, and it goes through a special filter before it goes to the plants or it goes to the animals. I had no problems with eggs. I was able to share, and still do, a lot of eggs. So my water, I have a beautiful pond to look at instead of this blue, sterile, ugly pool. I mean, I generate, now down here, this was kind of a big fat fail. But up at my bug out, I'm completely off grid. I have backup generator if I need it, but that means I don't have a utility bill up there. Don't have it. Zero zip zilch. Let's see, what the rest of the mantra? So my point to you is, it doesn't matter whether I'm right or wrong. That is the entire point. Get yourself set up, and then whatever happens, happens. Booty hooty Rudy Manooty. I don't think that's such a bad thing. And by the way, Cryptonomics, I do appreciate you coming in and playing devil's advocate. And I'm not being facetious at that. Anybody can ask me any hard questions. And after all I can do is give you a well-educated opinion. But it's still my opinion, right? You get to have one too. And I will support your right to have that opinion, even if I completely disagree with it. It's what we're all here about. It's about freedom, and it's about community. And communities don't have to think all alike. I like diversity. So thank you for doing this, and I appreciate it. And anybody else is welcome to do that too. Don't hold back on any hard questions or questions that you think I might not like you to ask. Just ask them. Just ask them. And Chill asks, I've stacked enough to pay off my mortgage and then some. Should I sell and pay it off or keep stacking? You keep tuning in, and I will let you know when I'm paying off my mortgage, because that is the only reason why I hold a mortgage on this house. I have no mortgage on the bug out, but I do a small one on this house because I want to execute the strategy with you. The time to pay off that mortgage is when they do that first overnight revaluation. That's when you liquidate whatever it is that you need to pay it off, and you liquidate it and you pay it off just like that. Boom, boom. That's when you do it. And Delana Lands asks, how would the proposed gold convertible Treasury bonds impact gold prices overall and our strategy? Quite honestly, they're looking at making it but it doesn't impact it. Because you can't convert it, presumably they pay you off with gold after 50 years or whatever. Let's just wait and see how that comes out. But quite honestly, it wouldn't impact it at all. I don't want debt. I want savings. That's what gold is. That's what silver is. So we'll just watch as they come out with that or not. And if I have to make adjustments, like, they didn't have the gold backs when I first developed the strategy. They didn't have, Kinesis gold or digital gold that could be converted into the real thing. They didn't have those things. So if they develop whatever comes up, then we just kind of step back. We know what we're trying to accomplish in these areas. And then where does this fit? Does it? Does it not? We'll figure that out as we go along, because I am fully prepared to adjust things that make sense. And Peter Cornforth asks, would you agree Nixon saved America's standard of living, as this was an inevitable position USA was going to be in? No, I do not agree with that, because what Nixon actually did was hand over full control of inflation to the private central bankers. And that grand experiment, I'm going to back up to move forward. Prior to 1913, all central banks had a life cycle somewhere between 15 and 20 years. Why? Because and this is happening right now, so I'm glad you brought that up, and this took me back here. Because governments knew that they were going to run into hyperinflation and they would be able to point the finger at the central banks, get away with them, they remain in power. Isn't that what President Trump is just saying? Okay, if we go into hyperinflation or this economy crashes, it's because of Powell. Not because of anything that the government is doing, it's because of the central bank. So they use them as a scapegoat, and I am not a fan of Powell. So let us just make this crystal clear, nor do I care who would have been in the White House right now. That's not relevant. I am staying economic. That's what my job is. So they had a life cycle of anywhere from 15 to 20 years. The real grand experiment that was created in 1913 when they legalized the Federal Reserve was the first time in history that an attempt to control the rate and speed of inflation had been installed. And gradually over time, going to 1971, right, the amount of gold supporting the currency was diminishing. So in the 40s, and I'm going to tell you, we are going to figure out how to tell this story a lot more clearly than I'm sitting here telling you right now. I promise. We are working on it. We will get this done. But essentially, during Bretton Woods, when the dollar became the world reserve currency, it was supposed to take the place of gold, right? And they were supposed to hold gold at a value of 35 of these dollars to 1 ounce of gold, right? Well, the dollar, or those that were in charge, so the central banks and the governments, abused that privilege. Why? So no, I don't think Nixon saved the dollar, or maybe it was prolonging it. But as soon as we no longer had a redeemable gold dollar, that was the death knell. And the clock was just ticking. Maybe it got postponed when Nixon took us completely off the gold standard, that snake. I remember that speech, but I didn't understand what he was talking about at that time. I think I was like 17 years old. So I remember that very clearly, but that was absolutely 100% the death knell. And he's not the one that did it, right? He just played into it and moved it along its cycle. But that started back in 1913. They used inflation to transfer your work and your wealth. I mean, I've shown you that a whole bunch of times, how we have been robbed of that. And think about this. Average wage, 1971, $10,500. Family of four could live on it with one wage earner. Average wage now is like $68,000 and change or something like that. And it takes two wage earners and you're paycheck to paycheck. Did he help save American standard of living? He helped prolong the American exceptionalism, but the standard of living was declining, right? Look, I've always worked. My mother's always worked. So it isn't like I think that women should stay home or anybody, men or women. I think it's all about choices and freedom of choice. But it was by design getting more women in the workforce. And then there was less of a nuclear family. So it was a breakdown. It's very complicated. But it was the breakdown of that nuclear family, which then started to give the government more impact and control over the children. And we've certainly seen that escalate over the last few years. There's a lot to that. That is a huge question. We should probably hold that aside so that when we're doing this piece on what was happening, Peter, we got to be using your question. And we'll see if I can figure out how to say this in a much better, more succinct way. I'm sorry if I butchered it. But Tule Ban asks, please say hi to Calvin G. Absolutely, I will. I saw him Monday. I will see him next Monday. He has been amazing helping me make decisions. Thank you, thank you. I love hearing that. Thank you so much. That matters so much to me because we work very closely together, all of us, as our community, as our team, and it's phenomenal. So thank you very much, Tule. I really appreciate knowing that. And Delana Lanz asks, what do you mean by if I'm wrong? Meaning all the metals would only be valued at spot if you were wrong? No. When I'm saying whether I'm right or whether I'm wrong, and it kind of depends on what we're talking about, but if we're particularly talking about gold, right? And it's the gold confiscation that I'm referring to. Because a lot of people have hopium, thank you, Tiger Stacker, have hopium that they would not confiscate gold again. Well, that's not historically accurate. So what if they don't? Doesn't matter because I know that the true fundamental value of this is 41 grand. This is even more because of its rarity factor. So that's what I mean. If I'm holding this and I bought it well below fundamental value and it loses, this has never happened, but it loses its collectible value, I still bought it really, 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 really cheap. So this is less likely to be confiscated. I'll have to worry about it. It doesn't matter. If I'm right, well, then you can't use this in the normal marketplace, and so go to the black market. But you can use this, and I can execute that strategy and convert it into income-producing assets that I can't outlive. If I'm wrong, I'm still buying it so far below fundamental value that it eats up that premium, and it doesn't mean a thing. So that's what I mean if I'm wrong. And also if I have the bug out, big deal. I love having a second home. I don't have to pack. I've got all my stuff up there. It's easy peasy. I've got lots of food. I've got water. I've got everything. I've got all the mantra up there. So if I never have to use it on bug out, I say hallelujah because there won't be anybody sleeping on my bedroom floor. But if I have to use it at bug out and I don't have the other houses built yet, they could sleep on my floor. So that's what I mean. I look at things and I go, if it doesn't matter, no matter what, I'm in a good position. If I do this, that's what I'm going to do. I don't like hopium. Hopium doesn't work very well. And Peter Comforth, I watch Lynette to see her art. Haha. Is that good or bad, Peter? I'm not sure, but thank you for recognizing that I do consider this my art. I really do. So thank you for recognizing that. Or maybe you're making fun of me, and that's okay too. I don't get insulted. AJ Betty asks, and what if the government doubles the taxes on gold? Yeah, what if they do? I would say that even 50% is better than a big fat goose egg, isn't it? And Wango, an entire nation's buying the digital gold? No, but they are buying physical gold for a reason. Thank you, Wango. Very good point. Atul Kumar Yadav, Zang, will you comment on the fact that most analysts or analysis is Western economy centric, whereas Eastern economies save in gold and silver already. That is such a great point. And especially those countries, say like India or Vietnam, that they are very gold centric and they wear their gold because they've lived through hyperinflationary events. In this country, that did really happen, not the way it's happened in other countries, but what do you think the gold revaluation in 33 did to the people? They lost a lot of purchasing power overnight. So you are absolutely right. Eastern economies, they save in gold and silver. They're already doing it. We are way late to the party. And it's probably one of the main reasons, and the fact that we're losing our status as the world reserve currency is why the destruction will be much worse here in the U.S. because we aren't really planning for it. Thank you for bringing that up. I really appreciate that. Very good point. And the Anvi1 asks, we are fixed income with no mortgage, but the property needs some work. We have gold and silver. Which should we dip into for these necessary upgrades? I would do silver, but it kind of depends because you're going to need silver for barterability as well. I don't know what other assets that you have. So it's really kind of hard for me to say a blanket. And I don't know, do you have emergency gold? And how much are these repairs that you need to do going to cost? So I kind of spoke really simply and blanketly just because it's easier to reaccumulate silver than it is to reaccumulate gold. But it kind of depends on what you're trying to do and what your overall picture looks like for me to honestly be able to give you a valid opinion. That was just sort of an offhand opinion. And Jacob asks, during and after the fiat reset, what do you think overseas international travel will look like? Well, I'm really hoping that some of those business classes get really, really cheap, but travel will implode a lot. And we are actually seeing that as a result of the tariffs for people coming to the U.S., they're shunning us. It's like changing. But you will not have as much travel. I remember 2008 and 2009, air travel got a whole lot cheaper because they were trying to get people into the planes. So I think that's what it's going to look like. And we can certainly see what's happening in the oil markets and how much they have imploded. So that's what I think will happen. And politicians never lie. Typically, when media starts pushing a certain stock, it's peaked and about to fall. Do you not see that as a potential for gold stocks? Well, gold stocks, the answer would be yes. Mining stocks, the answer would be yes. But and you'll see the spot market bounce as traders are taking profits. So in that regard, yes. But in the fundamental value part, no, because they only have money printing as a tool. They don't have any other tools. And at the end of the day, it is all about confidence. And gold is used 100% of the time to get your confidence. That is when we will see it express at least toward its fundamental value. It's going to take a few resets before they get us there, but it will begin to express it when they're trying to regain that confidence. That's how it works. So no, I don't trust fiat anything. I don't trust intangible anything at this moment. But I do in gold and silver, I trust physically in my possession. Anything else, I don't trust it. I become my own central bank. And Ron Chucks Maxwell Silver Hammer. Okay, that's Beatles. I got that. Will we see a 50 to 1 or 60 to 1 gold to silver ratio to swap silver back into gold? I mean, we could, but it's what's going to be available. Because again, I go back to what are you trying to accomplish? It's the right tool for the job. You know, if I'm trying to convert into income producing assets, well, I could probably do it with this, and I could probably even do it with this, but oh my gosh, you know how much more I would need of both of these, where it'd be so much more simple to do it with this. So I don't really care so much about the gold and silver ratio, and I'm not really certain. I couldn't even begin to guarantee or think that you would be able to convert into exactly what you needed to perform the functions that you needed to perform. So I know that's a thing that's called ratio trading, and it's not necessarily a horrible thing, but you need to understand where we are in this trend cycle, and we are at the end of this life cycle. So I'm just not sure that would work very well because of where we are in the trend. And any tips?
I'll just read it to you
Okay.
because I can't punch it in, but it says, from Gail Davidson, any tips for choosing a trustworthy numismatic dealer?
Well, GL833, GLDZANG. We've kind of heard that when people have gone other places, they've gotten gold and silver, but they have not necessarily gotten what they thought that they were going to get. And we have an exit strategy. We have a whole full loop strategy so that your worst case scenario is by the end of this thing, you are whole, no matter what the taxes are, no matter what the fees are, no matter what the premiums are, no matter what anything is. So, and I know personally, I work with our community, with our staff. I don't know a better gold and silver company than Zang Enterprises, period. And I'm not just saying that because it's me, because I had options and I had offers. And I don't know anybody else that does what I do. Do you? You know, I mean, you are absolutely welcome, but you've got to ask the right questions. Do they have an exit strategy? And if you say, well, what do you have a strategy? Yes, I have a strategy. What is your strategy? And how am I going to know when it's time to exit? And how are we walking through this together? Zang Enterprises is here for the long term, not even just through this trend cycle, but way beyond. We are future-proofing this company, and we are doing whatever we can do to bring value to you, our viewers. That's the way we feel about it. So, yeah, any tips? Call that number. Click that QR code. Check us out. You want to check anybody else out too? Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo. I'm not worried about that. Just compare your apples and your oranges. And that is not necessarily about prices or spreads or any of that, because they can lie. You want to see it in writing. We are standardized. We are not just here for your way in, but we're here as we walk through this, and we're here afterwards to make sure that you're properly positioned and your kids are forever. That's the goal, not just a minute, forever. And Tim Mazzullo want to say thank you, Lynette, for all you do, and shout out to Brandon, my strategist. Brandon is great. I just had a long conversation with him yesterday because I'm always in the offices on Mondays. And thank you very much, Timothy. I will let him know, or Tim, I will let him know, and you are very, very welcome. It really is a joy and a pleasure, and I know that I'm getting to live my destiny, and the love that I feel from you guys is worth absolutely everything and motivates me to do my best. I work for you. Everybody at Zang Enterprises works for you. That's who we work for. And is that, there's more. Okay. And Arthur Sondheim asks, have you read David Roger Webb's The Great Taking? Yes. If so, what are your thoughts on the international treaties, backing asset seizures in a crisis? I think we will see that unfold much more rapidly than anybody has a clue about, because that's what this is. And that is why it's a great taking. And he's indicating we are at the end of this great experiment, and it is not just on a local scale, it is on a global scale. And that is why it is so critically important for you to become your own central banker, and more than that, become as independent and self-sufficient and build that community. I know that that's a hard thing to do, but just say hello. You put out your hand. You start to share your gifts. You start to give your heart, okay? I mean, you stop and think about it. And I'll say this in front of everybody that's sitting in this room right now, and I've got 3 other people in here. I can buy somebody's time, right? But what I can't buy is your heart. And I can't expect people to give me their hearts if I haven't given them my heart. And that's how you build a community. You give your heart. You bring whatever it is, I'm getting goosebumps. You bring whatever it is that you have to the table and you share it freely. I live my life like this, right? Do I get taken advantage of? Sure. I mean, you know, I've got an army around me. They got to protect me from myself because, yeah, I'm a soft touch because this is how I live my life. And have I been burned? 100%. Have I been burned more than once? 100%. But that's on that person that decided to make that really bad choice. I am not going to stop living my life like that. So when you ask, how do you build community? I think that's how you do it. Why are you here? You're here today because you've seen me give you my heart, because I have. And it isn't just in words. All of the work that I do, that shows you every single time you look at any of my stuff, that's what I'm really doing. I'm giving you what I have to give and share with you. Mostly I'm giving you my heart. So that's how you build community. Go out there, give people your heart. Take a chance, right? Take a chance. Don't be stupid, and be surrounded by people that can help protect you from yourself. But that's how you build community, because that's how you build trust. So I think that's it for today. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. Make sure, if you haven't done it, give us a like, leave us a comment, share especially that first part, because when that becomes obvious, and frankly, they're working on it, but when the central bank loses its autonomy, then that means that the government is going to dictate however much money printing there is, and that is the end. And that's where we are. So until next we meet, come together in global community, come together in local community. And till next we meet, please be safe out there. Bye-bye.